Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I'm your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors. And this is your closing bell for Monday, February 7th, 2022. New start, new week, new beginning. As myself and Scotty will try to get you ready for today's market. An interesting market at that. There's not a lot of marquee games in the college ranks. Hockey is back. A couple games on the hardwood where Scotty will break down. We talked about them this morning on the Breakfast Bankroll. I was blessed, privileged, and honored to be on the Wise Words with my man Colton and Riley for the last hour, and they get me all jacked up, fired up, ready to go. I need to cash some tickets. It's a new start, new week, and I don't like to force the action. So if it's not there, we will not give it out, but I'll give out a few lanes, something that I see, and hopefully you see as well. So without further ado, the man with the plan from the Palm Tree State himself, the one, the only, Mr. Scott Webb. Scotty, my brother, what is happening?
Good afternoon, Jeff. How are you doing, brother?
You know, I wasn't having a great day, just Monday, everyone grabbing at you from all sides, you know. It felt like a piñata almost, you know. I was getting hit from all angles, and then got myself centered, had a good hour and a half. Now it's 4:30. It's time for the closing bell. You know, not the greatest of menus, but what I like to say is it's a new start. It's a new beginning of a week. And for us, the last 6 or 7 years, if we come out of the gates winning on Monday and Tuesday, most likely we're going to be cashing on envelope Monday, as we like to say it. So the beginning of the week's important for us. Not that any day's not, but like to be sharper than sharp when it comes to Monday and Tuesday.
Well, I guess it all depends on how you look at it, right? Like, I know you guys all do it weekly and say, hey, we got a new week. And that's a great thing, by the way, because there's a lot of ways to play things that way, week to week to week to week. I never look at it that way. I just look at it day to day to day to day to day to day to day. For me, that's what it is. It's day to day to day to day to day every day. But what's fun about doing it week to week is you do get those scenarios and special situations and things that come up because you have a beginning and an end. And if you go day to day to day to day to day to day to day, you don't ever have an end, and you know your beginning has already begun. So you know that's what I like about listening to those stories and the different things about the week to week stuff, because it makes sense and it's a lot of fun to do that way. And I guess you know the other part of it is for many of you out there, it's a lot easier way to track your bankroll too.
Yeah, and you know, we're getting closer to March Madness Conference Championships, and I've been talking about our Vegas trip, whether it will be, you know, the first 2 weekends. Do I slip in the third weekend, or what is it? But I like to do this is, you know, usually go out there between, you know, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 bankroll for the trip. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I, I'm the same person betting, you know, 50, 75 on a game as I am 300, 500, 750, 1,000 on a game. It doesn't, I don't have to bet $1,000 on a game to enjoy the game. The same with the 500. A win's a win, a loss. I'm just as salty on a $50 loss as I am with a $500 loss. So what I like to do is, let's say just comfortable with $3 a game. Go up there, play 300 a game. If you catch a nice, 7-2 out of the gate, you're up 4.8 units, then you go to 350, 375, 4. If you're losing, you pull back. You go to 275, 250. I'm not going out there to make $1 million. I'm not going out there to lose $1 million. And you know what? The funny thing is, whether I come back in July, September, October, November, those guys are still going to be there.
Yeah. Hi, Billy. How you doing? And the other part of it is, we always talk, or at least I always talk. Maybe I'm just in the minor part of how this thing works. But I think I have a pretty good understanding of how this stuff should be. But your bankroll has a purpose, and whatever that purpose is, you need to put a plan into place for that bankroll to help you establish that purpose or achieve that purpose, I should say. So if you're just going out there for 3 weeks and you're going to bet these games and you're going to have a good time and you're not going to replenish your bankroll, then damn, have fun with what you got and budget the money where it's at. And that if that's going to be a separate part of what you don't do throughout the regular year, then it's what you don't do throughout the regular year. And I think it's important that people realize that your bankroll is a tool. It's an asset. And if you don't use your assets and your tools properly, then your bankroll then becomes a nuisance and a problem because you can't wager properly. So it's important to understand how to manage your bankroll. And I guess the reason I say I'm in the minority is because I'm not a strict guy that says you can only bet X on a game. I think you can only bet so much percentage of your bankroll in a day, or I shouldn't say not in a day, but at one time. So even if you got 3 games at noon and you like all 3 games, you might have if you got a $3,000 bankroll, you might limit yourself to having, I don't know, let's just say it's 20% of your bankroll at any given time that's out there. And so you can't have more than $600 out there. So if you have $600, you got to divide that out by 3 games. You got to put $200 a game on there. So the point of it is that you just manage it properly, however you need to manage it. And I think bankroll management is the key number one thing to staying in this game and making money in this game. Listening to us and picking wagers and doing different things goes up and down sometimes. And the reality of it is that if without your bankroll, you're not much. You're not used to. You can't do anything. So I think that's the most important part.
Shout out to Billy in Louisiana, crushing it. Great job, brother. Give that wife Rebecca a big hug for your man back east. Shout out to Mr. Lucky. I know he's following us and listening on Twitterville. Soon to be picking out some nice Italian restaurants, maybe a little Roma on Fremont Street, and go from there. Shout out to Marty Lowe and our Twitterville crew and anyone else watching and listening. Thank you. I'm going to just throw this out here. There's a 5 o'clock tip-off, rotation number 871, 872, the NC Wilmington versus Hofstra, a game that opened up at 7.5 that's bet down all the way to 6, minus 105, soon to go 5.5. 77% of the bets, 83% of the money on NC Wilmington, coming off a huge winning streak and a loss this weekend. The public just doesn't see them losing 2 in a row, but guess what? I do. So shop around. If you can get yourself a 6, even a 5.5, I will strongly urge Hofstra at 5 o'clock today. Like I said, shop around, see if you can get that 5 and a hook. If not, 6 should be fine. And under the over that opened at 145 in the hook, it's now 144 in the hook. They're all pounding the over there as well. I think Hofstra gets out early, and I think they defend the home court pretty well. Public's all in. 78% of the bets, 83% of the money coming in on NC Wilmington. They don't believe they'll lose 2 in a row. Well, I think they're going to lose 2 in a row, and they're going to lose by 7 or more. How's that sound? Um, but I'm going to turn the stage to you, Scotty. That was the one at 5 I wanted to talk about, and you can go back over the hardwood, and NBA. If anything's changed, anything's caught your eye, or anything to add or subtract.
Yeah, sure. I talked about a lot of those games this morning and thought, okay, these are some spots to play and different things. And one of them that I was looking at was that Toronto Charlotte game, and I just decided not to play that game. I think that there is plenty of reasons to play on Charlotte, but I just don't want to step in the front of Toronto right now. My thought process is, and I'll say this over and over and over, and people will probably get tired of me saying it, but it's not my job to figure out when the teams are off of their streak. And Toronto is on a streak, and Charlotte is not on a streak. They're on a different streak. They're going different ways. My numbers tell me Charlotte's the right way to go. Everything I've seen and read and everything that I'm looking at tells me Charlotte's the right way to go, but I'm going to not go that way. So that's just a lean there. But I did play that Miami and Washington game, and I don't know that I talked about it too much at the early morning here. What it turned into is that we got a total now of 206 or something, 206 and a half, I think is the number. I'm looking at 206 on pregame.
Yeah, anyway, 205 and a half at Circa, 206 and a half at DraftKings, and 206 at the rest of the Vegas Strip.
So I think this game goes over 206. So I bet it to go over 206. What I like here is that Washington in the last 2 weeks, their defensive efficiency is one of the worst in basketball. It's 117.7 per 100 possessions. Not that Miami gets 100 possessions in a game. They tend to slow it down a little bit, but that tends to mean that they're going to score some points in this game. And excuse me. And I don't think that Washington's been playing that well. So on the other side, I wanted to make sure two things. One, Jimmy Butler is listed as questionable for tonight's game. And if you're going to play an over, you want that guy to play. And everything I can find and everything that I've read it shows that he's got a toe injury, and he played last time out. He scored, I think, 27, 30 points, 27, something like that. And he toughed it through, and they think he's going to do the same thing. And then further about these two teams when they match up, and they in the last 16 matchups between Miami and Washington, the overs come in 11 times. Now, I don't necessarily use that as influence. I just use that as something that solidifies kind of how I'm thinking. And I like the idea that this is a low total. My number's 212. So I like, and it's like 108 and a half to 103 and a half is my score. So in terms of the six, it's kind of right at that number. So, but I do like the over. So I played that one. I decided to pass on Chicago only because that team is Jekyll and Hyde with me. And I did step in and played Oklahoma City plus 12 and a half against Golden State tonight. And there's the biggest reasons for that is I think that, that should be around 9.5, 10 points. So I'm getting some extra value. And as a double-digit favorite, Golden State's 5-6, first away game of a series. They're 3-4. So, and then they don't. Oklahoma City's not a great team, so they've got some quality opponents next, right after this. And Oklahoma City is 7-3 in the first game of a home game of a series. So I kind of like the idea, and I'll pull up who they're playing in just a second if I can get there. Golden State, here they are, and they are going to be playing in the next game is against Utah, and that's a game that they're going to want to play. It's at Utah. Then they go home and play New York and Los Angeles Lakers. So those are some big games that they're going to play. And they don't give a crap about Oklahoma City. So I don't think that they're going to go out there and be wanting to beat them by 13 points. I think they're just going to want to beat them. So those are my two plays. I got over 206 In the Miami and Washington game and Golden State game, I got Oklahoma City plus 12.5.
Coming into the college ranks on the Okie State there for a second, Scotty. Oklahoma City. We talked here in college, rotation number 871, 872. Hofstra. There it is right there. I knew it was coming, guys. South Point now has it at 5.5. Our boy Mr. Chris Andrews, Jimmy Vaccaro, I know you're listening on the show. I told you it was going to 5.5, and it's at 5.5. Public all in on Wilmington. We'll gladly take the Hofstra minus the 5.5. We thank you here at ECSI. The other 5 o'clock game, Charlotte at Florida International, 873, 874 on the rotation number. Florida International opened at 1, is a pick at Circa, -1 at Westgate, South Point, Ian Caesars. 66% of the bets, 72% of the money is on International, yet the line is not moving. Slight, very, very small lean to Charlotte, but I would pass there. See if we can find anything else for you. Here's a big mover for you. Rotation number 879, 880. Texas, San Antonio versus Middle Tennessee State. Middle Tennessee State opened at 15, now a flat 12 across the Vegas Strip. 55% of the money, 55% of the bets, 50% of the money on Middle Tennessee State, yet the line dropped 3 points. Sharper, heavier money coming in on San Antonio. What do your numbers say, Scott?
Yeah, this is showing 58% of the money's on Middle Tennessee, 53% of the tickets on Texas, San Antonio.
I mean, just from our eyes, I mean, Texas, San Antonio would be the play. There's some heavier, sharper money coming in on them. A 3-point drop. Keep an eye on that. Don't go crazy over there, please, on that. This morning we talked about Virginia and Duke. Duke coming off a smashing at UNC. Virginia just up and down. Just when you go with them, they lose. When you go against them, they beat you. Rotation number 881, 882. Duke opened up at 12.5 and now 11 at Circa, 11.5 at Westgate and South Point. 55% of the bets, 55% of the money on Virginia. I don't have a feel for this game. I'm pretty sure Duke will win the game. I'm pretty sure that they'll win by double digits, but don't know which Virginia team will show up and would gladly pass there. Rotation number 885, 886, James Madison at Drexel. 50% of the bets, 58% of the money in on Drexel. Yet the line opened at 5.5. Now is a flat 4. So by our eyes, there is some reverse line movement on James Madison.
Yeah, I'm showing a little different here. Drexel, 71% of the money. James Madison, 59% of the tickets.
Well, that would mean the sharper, heavier money is coming in on Madison. It did move a 1.5, slightly in James Madison plus the 4 there, guys. A good game with George Mason and Richmond, rotation number 889, 890. Showing 80% of the bets, 89% of the money on Mason. Is that right?
No, I'm showing 58% of the money, 54% of the tickets. This one's got 22,000 on it. It's not a heavily bet game.
It dropped from 8 to 7. I mean, that's a lot of points to be given a Mason team. This Richmond team was great last year. They've had a couple of decent wins of late. I'm not back in saying they're back. It's a game that I'd be staying away from. Rotation number 891, 892. This is the stinker of the day, guys. Temple with a nice win over the weekend, playing better. Still not your Mr. Cheney, old Temple Owls team, and South Florida's been putrid. Rotation number 891, 892. Temple opens up -3.5, and it's up to 4 at South Point. 78% of the bets, 81% of the bets, 94% of the money on Temple.
Yeah, this is showing 81% of the money, 81% of the tickets on Temple.
I can tell you this, guys, the 3.5 is to entice you. If you can get a South Florida +4, throw some pizza and beer on it. It's not a great game, but they're begging for Temple money today there. All right, the flip of the day, rotation number 903, 904, Southeast Missouri State at SIU Edwardsville. Rotation number 903, 904. Edwardsville opened up -3. Now, Southeast Missouri State is -1, even 1.5 at South Point. 73% of the bets, 90% of the money in on Missouri State.
Well, this one's a little weird. This one only has $8,800 bet on it, so it wouldn't take much to flip numbers around probably. But the 82% of the money's on Southeast Missouri State, and 56% of the tickets on whoever the other team is.
Yeah, so like Scott said, there's not even 10K on it. So whatever money is coming in on Southeast Missouri State, that caused the flip. Just stay away. I have to talk about opening numbers for a reason. This Edwardsville was opened up -3 for a reason. I'm not touching the game. I would respect the -3 before I would the flip. So I would lean SIU Edwardsville there. Kansas at Texas, 9:07, 9:08, a 9 p.m. start. Texas opened up 1.5-point favorites. The public said not so fast. Now Kansas is 1.5-point favorites. 61% of the bets, 56% of the money. I would have to say by far this is the most heavily bet game.
It's the most heavily bet game. It's not by far. It's 138,000 is bet on this game, and that Duke game is 128. So it's not too far, but it probably has a lot more to go because it's 9:00 start versus the 7. But 59% of the money's on Kansas. That just changed. 60% of the money is on Kansas. 70% of the tickets on Kansas.
Listen, I can tell you Texas has got one of the best defenses in the country. If they come in and they try to go toe-to-toe with Kansas, they will lose. If they control pace, they control the boards, they're going to do very well here. Now, the total's at 132, so your initial thought by the opening line is 67-65 Texas. Okay? Now, with that being said, can Texas get to 70 if they had to? Yes, they can. But, I mean, if this game is played with both teams in the 70s, Texas will lose. So I lean Texas here. I like them. I like them at home. I like what they're doing. I think they're slowly rounding into form. I would take them plus the 1.5. If you want to wait a little while, you might get them +2, plus around 115, 18 on that money line. I really, really like their spot there. And lastly, rotation number 909, 910. 9 p.m. start, Arizona at Arizona State. Arizona Wildcats opened up 14-point favorites, now 12. 61% of the bets, 56% of the money, all coming in. 55% of the bets, 60% of the money coming in on Arizona. The line has dropped 2 points. So in our eyes, that's reverse line movement on Arizona State, who's just coming off a triple OT game Saturday against UCLA. Scott, if you Venmo'd me $100 to bet on Arizona State, I'd Venmo you $200 and tell you to take your wife out for dinner.
Yeah, this shows 79% of the money, 78% of the tickets on Arizona.
Yeah, it just says Arizona State team, just a Jekyll and Hyde. They put their hearts on the line on Saturday. They played a big game, won a couple overtimes, came up short against UCLA. And if Arizona comes in with the right mindset, they win by 20 going away. So it's a pass for us. But again, I talked early about the Hofstra game. I gave you a couple other more leans today, a couple games to keep an eye on. Listen, if there's any questions about any games, guys, you can go over to EC Sports Invest. You can DM me. I will give you my honest answer, what we are seeing. Reach out to Scotty at Webby20 MLB on the NBA front. And it's Monday. It's a new start. It's a new week. It's a new beginning. I can't say that enough. If you had a rough week last week and you don't like anything, then don't play it. You wake up tomorrow a winner. Imagine that. Wake up tomorrow, put the Olympics on, cheer for the country. I don't know what's on for the slate tonight, but you don't have to play just because they're on TV. And with that being said, one moment here. Let's go to our Webby's Words of Wisdom.
Well, today's about independent thinking and trying to make sure that you have a learning ground to have a resource from. So in life, there's a lot of things, and one topic that came up the other day, it's called groupthink. And groupthink is a peer pressure that, people and the people around you and counterparts, people that you work with, they tend to have a certain way that they're thinking and sort of a pressure for you to think like they do. And that's a very dangerous thing in life. And it's also a very dangerous thing as we go forward in trying to be productive in your job. So success in life often comes from because you have a differentiation of yourself from others. It makes you creative, gives you the ability to produce a product or produce an idea or produce a process, but you're producing something. As humans, we have the ability to reason. We have the ability to conduct science experiments. We can run tests. We can do all kinds of things. But the point of that is that we can conclude ideas into results, and we must be able to not bow down to groupthink pressure, because you're the only person in the entire world that can change your own mind. I can't change your mind for you. Jeff can't do it. Your boss can't do it. Nobody can change your mind but you. And all the other people in the world will influence your mind. And if you want to stand alone and be out there and create something and do something, you need to have independent thinking, and you need to be comfortable at standing on that limb away from the tree trunk. And in sports, it's more commonly known that you want to be making wagers that the sports book needs, not what the public needs. And in this case, the public is the peer pressure. In our world, we want to stand alone. We want to be brave. We want to act on our own thoughts. And there's a couple of things that came to mind. Is this what a contrarian thinker is? Well, a contrarian thinker is the meaning of the term. It means be against. And it's somebody who's opposite stance of the popular opinion. And they do this in a lot of ways because they want to stand out. An independent thinker is somebody who wants to figure things out. A lot of times they form their own thoughts. They use reasoning and logic behind their process. So independent thinking is probably a little bit better than contrarian thinking, in a sense that independent thinking allows you to be against whatever an opinion is, but not because of the stance that that's the way you're thinking. But the idea here is that you need to put your position in place and put a formula together that allows you to have an environment where we make good decisions easier to make and bad decisions harder to make. And as you do those things, you then are eliminating distractions, influence, groupthink, focus on your actions, because you can always change your plan. You can't change your goal. So whatever your goal is, go ahead and set forth and work towards making those things, but be an independent thinker to try to get there.
All righty, sir. Always great words of wisdom without making me think all the time, and it's much appreciated. I always talk or try to explain to my children, every action, there's not just a reaction, but you are responsible for your action, And I knew growing up at a young age that when I was young and naive, especially in these lanes right here, being allowed the freedom to pick up the phone and place wagers Monday through Sunday. And then when I won, expected that person to be there Wednesday or Thursday. But when you lost and you didn't have all of it, or you're come up a little shorter, you're asking for that free week to get. It didn't work that way. Mm-hmm. And again, not being responsible for your actions. You're the one that picked up the phone. You're the one that placed that wager. You're the one responsible for that wager. There's nothing worse than having someone come up to you and say, hey, well, my buddy is the one that placed that wager and he stiffed me. Well, you're the one that called it in. You're next on the line. You're responsible for it. And that's coming into the Super Bowl, guys. Okay, so maybe that was a great tie-in, Scott. Listen, if your buddy who you haven't talked to in a year comes up and says he wants to put $500 on the Super Bowl under your name and your account, tell him to go pound sand. Were you? Where were you the other 364 days? So enough from me. So listen, anyone wagering tonight, always, always, always wager and invest responsibly. If you have a problem, pick up the phone. There's an 800 number there. Ask for help. Why? Because we care. We would like to see you here today, tomorrow, next week, next month, through 2022 and beyond. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from Scotty Webb at Webby 20 MLB. We wish everyone a blessed evening, and you will catch us tomorrow morning at the Breakfast Bankroll.